All right, so this is the homework from Friday that hopefully you submitted. That was for Monday. And then the sub Monday gave you a couple things to do, and that was on Canvas there. Make sure you submit both sides, okay? All right, let's get started by doing a quick little review of this guy right here. See if you can find some pieces, parts of this parabola right here, okay? And then maybe we could set up a little graph of it also. We'll write it as a function, f of x is equal to that. So when we do have on our assessment, which will be Friday as of now, I'll have this lined up, A, B, C, D, E, F, just like that. So it'll be very familiar to you. You'll have a blank for A, a blank for B, and you'll have a spot to have your graph, okay? So here we go. See if you can knock this guy out. I hate to make everybody do it, but common courtesy, I want you to shut your computers. Yep, submit that, and that's good. So, Michael, thanks. So like on the assessment, we will have something like that, A. So get it, what do you think? Is it up or down? Of course, it's a downer because we have negative there, so it's a down. Let's get a second, find that axis of symmetry now. That axis of symmetry, negative b over 2a. And remember, our axis of symmetry is always going to be x equals negative b over 2a. Always that. So watch when you have your negatives up there. We have a couple of those going. Change our perspective on that. Make sure you got negatives in the right spot. So we have negative 1 and our b is negative. So I think we're going to end up with a positive number here of 1. Check your work there. Now go ahead and see if you can find the vertex. Remember, we already have half of it, don't we? So x equals negative b over 2a is positive 1. Is that correct? Can you guys get that with me? Thank you. Keep checking your grades as we continue on. If you're missing something, bring it to my attention. If you haven't taken any, the chapter 4 tests, you need to just try to stay up on some stuff as best you can. I know we're all doing it as best we can right now with everything. So hang in there. We have lots of people being quarantined at this point, don't we? It seems like. C, we already have half that vertex, which is 1. So now remember, we're going to plug that 1. So we're going to have negative, but 1 is going to be squared, plus 2 times 1 plus 3. So we're going to end up with, this is going to end up being negative 1. 1 times 1 is 1, but the negative doesn't apply to that 1 right there. So it's going to be negative 1 plus 2 plus 3. So our vertex point, our y value is 4. And this is what we did yesterday. You did a couple of these, didn't you? Okay, we found the pieces, parts, and we're continuing with finding these parts. All right, where are we crossing? We are the vertex we found, intercept. Intercept is D, and that is always 0, and whatever your C was, and that's 3. I'm going to sketch a little graph now over in this area here. So we'll go for our graph. I think it's up in this quadrant. Let's see. X is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is X at 1, Y at 4. There we have our vertex. We know it's going down. 0, 3 is our other intercept. So this guy is coming down like that. We have that symmetrical point right in here, which would be 2, 3. Axis of symmetry coming right down through here. X equaling 1, which we can label. And there we are working that guy a little bit there. Questions, everybody so far? This is like day 3 of doing these, maybe even day 4, I think, is it? All right, we're down to, we did our E, this is E, we have our graph right here. Now we're ready for F. Is this a max or a minimum? What is this point? It's the highest point, so it's a max, and what's the Y value there? It's a max at Y equaling 4. Always the Y value there, is everybody okay? Ready for another pieces part, and that's been our domain and range, which we added on Friday, okay? Which we're calling G. Your domain X, such that X equals all the reals. And you can write it just like that, equals reals, or you can say all reals. And your range, Y, such that, now Y, it has to do with this vertex point right here. Looks like everything what? Below it, so it's going to be less than or equal to that vertex point, which is 4. How are we feeling there, okay? I mean, we've done maybe a dozen of those at this point, and you should be able to feel pretty good about axis of symmetry, vertex point, and all those pieces parts of it. Now, we still have the last part we're going to find, and that's where we introduced factoring from yesterday a little bit. We're going to review that again, and that is these guys right here. Those are our roots, or where we're crossing the x-axis. And we do factoring, but also you can solve by quadratic formula, and you can also solve by completing the square. I think those are things you learned in Algebra 1, but we're going to go over those again here in Algebra 2 as we move through this section or this chapter. So I'm not concerned about over going with just plain factoring. You hit it pretty hard in Algebra 1. We're going to review a little bit about it, and I know that it might have been a little bit tricky yesterday without the review, but let's go to it. Remember, this is what we're trying to find, okay? And we find that by factoring the zeros. Those are the zeros. Another part of the quadratic. All right, before we do this particular problem, I want to give you a sense of x squared plus 3x plus 4. There are 4 possibilities. This is number 1. Your quadratic would look like that. And that's the easiest, where both signs are plus plus. Do you remember this from Algebra 1? Okay, if both signs are plus plus, your binomials are both going to be plus plus. Is that, you remember that from Algebra 1? Hopefully you do. There's another possibility. The second one, we have x squared minus 3x plus 4. Now, when this column, the second sign is plus, you always are going to have both to whatever's in front. So second sign plus, so both binomials are going to have to be minus. Now again, if you want to take this down, fine. If you don't, I get it. I call this combination also the sum, because the middle term has to sum up. The factors have to sum up to be the middle term when you factor that. And you'll see that when we do one. So the factors of 4 have to add up to be 3. In this case, I just made this up, so it really doesn't. This would be an irrational one. So that's the sum. All right, our second type would be this. Number 3, we might have x squared minus 3x minus 4. And number 4 is x squared plus 3x minus 4. Okay? This is minus in this second one right here. This is a negative number right here. Up here was positive. That's negative. Anytime I have a negative number in the second one, I'm always going to have one positive and one negative. Order doesn't matter. I could have the first one negative or the second one positive. It does not matter. Now, this one, if we have negative here, then we need the difference. Okay? We need difference here. The factors have to have a difference of the middle term, not the sum of the middle term. The factors have to have a difference of the middle term. How we do it? Again, if you didn't get the factoring part, I would expect everybody could submit the parabola part from yesterday. If you didn't get the factoring, you're gonna finish that up and then submit that yet. Today sometime, you got class time here in a second. I'm only gonna do a couple. All right, we're ready for this first one right here. Okay? Negative here. What does negative there tell me? Tells me one's gonna be what? Positive, one's gonna be negative, isn't it? All right, no coefficient in front of that, so x has to be there, doesn't it? Should be remembering this a little bit from Algebra 1, don't you? Okay, now, I need difference, I need the difference of 4. What are my factors? 1 times 12. Well, what's the difference between 1 and 12? Well, that's 11, isn't it? That's not what I need, is it? Okay? 3 times 4, that's 12, right? What's the difference between 3 times 4? That's only 1. That's not the one I want, is it? 2 times 6. What's the difference between 2 and 6? 4. That's the one I want. Now, it does matter where the 4 goes. The 4 is going to need to go here, doesn't it? Okay? Excuse me, the 6, I'm sorry. I said 4 for some stupid reason. The 6. Okay? That 6 needs to go here, and that 2 needs to go here. Now, back from Algebra 1, how do we check this? Well, we check by first, outer, inner, and last, don't we? The old famed FOIL. X times x is x squared minus 6x plus 2x minus 12. X squared minus 4x minus 12, and that's what we started with. How we going, my friends? Okay? Again, I'm hoping this is somewhat review for you and that you feel comfortable with some of it. Let's try another one. Is everybody okay? Note takers, I don't know if those 4 types help you out a little bit if you took it down. I like this. You think the sum, when it's plus here, the sum gets to the middle. When it's negative here, I need the difference for that middle term. I think that's really helpful if you took it down on notes there. All right, here we go. What's different about this one? It's not a trinomial, it's just a 2-term binomial. And we see this anytime. We're always looking for, whoops. What's that stand for? Greatest common factor. Sometimes that's all we got to do, especially if there's just 2 terms, unless it might be a perfect difference of perfect squares, which comes up. Taking out 3x, gonna have x plus 6 left. Now, this one, the directions are a little different. It does find the zeros, okay? So we still have one more step. If it just says factoring, you just factor it. It says find the zeros, now we got some work to do. So we're gonna take 3x, set it equal to 0. We're gonna take x plus 6 and set it equal to 0. I'm gonna divide by 3. So x is equal to 0. I'm gonna minus 6. And then x would be equal to negative 6. There's your spots that it crosses the x-axis. So there is a difference if you find the zeros versus factoring. Questions or concerns? I need someone out there to impress me. Where's the axis of symmetry going to be? think about this guy. What'd you say?
-3.
It is going to be x equals -3, correct? Because it's crossing at -6 right here, and it's crossing at 0 right here. We know that it opens up, so somehow we're getting something like that, aren't we? Right? This is -6, and that's 0. That axis of symmetry's gotta be right down the middle, x equals -3. Could we find the vertex pretty easily? Yeah, what do? Plug in what? Axis of symmetry, -3 into this. Let's see, -3 times -3, yeah, it's gonna be, oh yeah, pretty big number. -3, it's gonna give us 9, that'd be 27. And then plus, well, it's gonna end up being negative, because -3 times that would give me a -54, I think. So the difference between that would be your y value at the vertex. Then you get your domain range and have some really fun with it. Oh, it's just exciting stuff. Everybody good? All right, let's try one more factoring problem. See, and then we're gonna call it a day. I'm gonna have you a couple. All right, minus, so minus. I'm always looking at this one first. That tells me what to do. Okay, if that sign's minus, I know one's gonna be positive and one's gonna be negative. Doesn't matter which one I put first, the negative or positive. This is also one minus, I need difference. I need factors that have a difference. So the factors of 6 are 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Now, this one can cause problems, because you can add 2 and 3 and get 5, or you can subtract 1 and 6 and get 5. Well, this is the difference, okay? So a lot of students may miss this one, but what we need is these, not this one. And if you were to FOIL, you would figure that out. It wouldn't work. Of course, that 6 matters. It needs to be with the negative. Again, what are we finding? We're not just factoring, we're finding the zero. So we gotta finish this out. I'm not gonna FOIL this one because we all understand that's correct. But if you don't know, you gotta FOIL to check and see if it's correct. Does everybody see? But we're not gonna do that on this one. We do have to set these equal to 0. So let's do that. And now we're gonna have x plus 1 equals 0. We're gonna have x minus 6 equals 0. I need to subtract 1. So x is -1. I need to plus 6. So x is positive 6. And there's where you're at. Axis of symmetry on this one, anybody? X equals?
3.9.
That is correct. X equals 3.5. Axis of symmetry would be x equaling 3.5. Thank you. J. Yes,
How do you find that axis of symmetry?
we just find the absolute value between -1 and 6 would be what? What's the value between negative, absolute, what's the distance between -1 and 6 would be 7.
Okay.
We're just gonna take half that. And take it from one side or the other. Everybody good there? You know what? I think it's 2.5. So that's fine. I made that mistake. So, because the distance from -1 to 2.5 would be 3.5. Then from 2.5, add 3.5, and you get 6, so it's 2.5. Little bit. That's good. It is 2.5. All right, how we doing? Better on the factoring thing or not? Everybody good? What would we look for here? Yeah, what is it? What's the only thing come out of both those? X minus 8. Right? Set that equal to 0 because what are we finding? The zeros again, aren't we? Okay? So at this point, we can say x equals 0, and the other x is gonna be positive 8, because we set x minus 8 equals 0, take the 8 over, be positive. Much easier to find this axis of symmetry. JD, what would it be?
4.
Yeah, it's just gonna be x equals 4 is the axis of symmetry here. So if we were to graph this thing, it's gonna look something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, axis of symmetry coming down, through 5, 6, 7, 8, going through here and going through here. It does open up, so it's coming down, going through that somehow, axis of symmetry, x equals 4. This is 8, 0 here. This is 0, 0. We can find the vertex if we really wanted to, but we know how to do that. I'm not gonna go any further. Everybody okay? Lots of submitting to do. Just a couple of problems. Here's the answers also. I'm not trying to hide those from you. Okay? So page 338, just 6 little quick factors. Hopefully you'll try them. I appreciate that if you would. And submit that. I have that for today, submitting today. Also, yesterday from the sub, those need to be submitted also. Everybody good? All righty, thanks.